Good afternoon, morning, or evening, wherever you are, and thank you for listening to First Light Warrior Podcast. This is Tala Smith in the Inland Empire of Southern California. My messages are centered on creating sustainable quality of life with catastrophic illness and injury. I believe in thriving, not just surviving. I will be talking about everything that led me up to this point and how I am moving beyond it. If you like what you hear, I'm inviting you to subscribe. You will find free content and a bit more in-depth teaching behind the paywalls for both my blog and my podcast. Whatever level of support you decide to offer is deeply appreciated. I am committed to providing quality content of value, and I trust that my loyal listeners will choose to give something back of value in return. My brand tagline is savage, not average, and that is me. My choice every day is to level up and seek the best version of myself that I may become. This is the first episode, and it's primarily going to be an introduction for people who are not familiar with me, not familiar with my work, but I believe it's also an opportunity for my friends to get to know me a little bit better as well. I want to try to do an overview and keep it brief. So, going back to childhood, I've always been sick. I was always dealing with chronic pain. I caught every virus, every flu and cold that was going around. I was the sick child of the family. That's the size of it. I never knew that other people didn't have the same experience when it came to pain. I would watch other children on the playground and not wonder why doesn't it hurt when they hit a ball or kick it. It was why doesn't it bother them? It took me until my adult years to understand that my experience in my body was actually unusual and not typical. As various problems unfolded with my connective tissues, muscle function, neurological issues, the older I got, the more obvious the signs were, not just symptoms. So by the time I was in my 40s, I was really pushing for answers and also solutions. Living in a desert region in Southern California, I was exposed to UV to an extent that it was triggering a malar rash, which is a symptom, a sign actually, that only happens with systemic lupus, and that is across the bridge of the nose and the cheeks in the shape of a butterfly, and that is the reason we use the butterfly as an awareness symbol for systemic lupus, for any form of lupus. My first diagnosis in this entire general category was actually fibromyalgia. But when it was seen that my response to both a steroid treatment and hydroxychloroquine was positive, they could no longer deny that it was definitely autoimmune. When you combine that with my labs showing elevated markers like the C-reactive protein and the ESR Westergren, otherwise known as SED rate, it became pretty clear. The reason I mention that is because quite often for an autoimmune diagnosis and lupus specifically, you do have to go into fight mode. And this is what led me to becoming an awareness advocate and also teaching self-advocacy. Because not everyone knows how to fight for what they need. Not just a diagnosis, but the correct solutions for you as an individual. And I am very much dedicated to teaching natural solutions first, food as your first medicine, supplementation, and then using medical science as a backup. And the reason I went that direction is because I have a very good friend named Dina who went off all her medications cold turkey. She will tell you the same thing that I will. This is not recommended. She actually spent about a week in bed sick as a dog. She'll tell you that herself. I'm not revealing anything. She's always given me permission to tell her story since I have the voice and I'm out there with an audience. But in her, I saw a glimmer of hope because she was someone handling it the way I wanted to handle it and in a way that I was told you can't do that. I've always looked at natural solutions first. I started studying natural medicine and nutrition when I was 15 years old. For a frame of reference, I'm now about to be 58. It's often important to see an example of someone living the way that you want to live in order to find the motivation to work for it. Seeing that it could be done, and she's been unmedicated most of the years that I've known her, I realized there is something more to this. I don't have to be stuck with what they tell me I have to be stuck with. It's taken me a number of years to get to the point of function that I am at now. And it's been a lot of feeling like the rug gets yanked out over and over. There have been injuries. I've lived with back pain for, I couldn't tell you how many years. My first injury, I was 14. So you can do the math from there. Right now, I am a little over 2 years free of back pain. So it took me a lifetime to get to that point. I am now also 2 years off of all the pain medications. I'm a big advocate for responsible legal use of medical cannabis. I did that for a while. I used edibles. I don't need those now either. That's how low my pain level is. So I want to offer hope to others because I believe in paying it forward. If there's one thing that you take away from what I'm saying today, it's that there is hope. Without hope, no one will hear the message never quit. There has to be hope of something better. Otherwise, why am I fighting? Maybe out there, there's someone who they can hang in there, even if they feel like nothing is ever going to improve, but it was not me. I can tell you that I was in a very dark place even 3 years ago. In my work, there has to be a grit and determination to grind, as everybody says these days, because the feedback about what you are doing having a positive effect for others does not come often. I've learned to be okay with that, but early on it was difficult. Knowing that from this side of it now, I've committed to speaking up when someone has helped me. So, of course, I'm going to call out my buddy Kyle because he made a huge difference in my life. He introduced me to hope beyond what I had seen in anyone else up to this point. What he showed me was a life severely affected by tremendous injuries beyond what I had experienced myself. What he also showed me was something that I had a clue about, but I had not seen in action to this degree before. And that is, with a profound level of fitness, your body has a much greater fighting chance to recover from anything thrown at it. It doesn't matter if it's a virus or a stroke, which he went through, or a back injury or any kind of injury. The better you take care of your body and give it the strength to rebound, the quicker you're going to recover from whatever it is. It should not have taken me so long to get that through my own head. I had to see it real time. The man had a massive stroke, and I watched him recover enough to go home from the hospital in 1 week. As I always say, who does that? I jokingly tell him he's a freak of nature. He accepts that label. So, this individual, in the middle of his own crisis, still reached out to me and walked me through the steps of how to do this, how to recover when something absolutely overwhelming comes into your life. And you may not even know where to start or what to do, but you start and you fight and you fight and you do not quit. I listen to motivational speakers myself, and we listen to some of the same ones. But the one I was not familiar with was C.T. Fletcher. I know who he is now. He will refer to C.T. as the man who rebuilt him. And of course, in turn, I give that same credit to Kyle. Without his instruction and demonstration of how this is done, I'm not sure where I would be. Probably still in a very dark place. I say all of that because this is someone that I do collaborative work with, and hopefully there will be a lot more along the way. I also believe in giving credit where it's due. And as I said, those of us who do this kind of work, the feedback is sometimes few and far between. He's okay with that, but I'm still going to give him his flowers. So where do we go from here? We know that I'm an autoimmune patient and that I have neurological conditions, a bunch of injuries. I've had both shoulders repaired surgically. I've been through a lot with my spine. These things are not just going to go away, they have to be managed. I have a lot of difficulties with joints, and as it turns out, May is not just Lupus Awareness Month. I saw a bunch of posted awareness videos and messages over the month of May this year that alerted me to something I never considered before. It had been suggested that I might have hypermobility, but I didn't believe it. When I saw that it manifests differently in different people and I started reading the information, the light bulb went on. See, my inflammatory markers are next to nothing at this point. So if my inflammation is under control, why am I still experiencing pain and difficulty? This is the question I could not answer. Well, lupus patients generally are not given the word remission. They call it clinical quiescence. So whether we want to call it remission or clinical quiescence, either one, why was I still in pain? That's the question no doctor could answer. I always feel like I need to stretch. My connective tissues seem like they're tightening up. Nothing is helping. As it turns out, the muscles are reacting to the fact that my connective tissues are not doing the job that they were designed to do. I've got my doctor running requests for approval on some tests to see if it's possible that I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. This could just be a diagnosis of hypermobility spectrum disorder, but we are going to find out because the realization hit me so hard, and I started going through my health profile, and I went head to toe and found 43 different items that I could list that point straight to hypermobility. It's staggering. And I usually don't give a long list of signs and symptoms like that to any doctor because they start rolling their eyes and thinking this person's a hypochondriac. But I have an excellent primary care physician, and I trusted him with that list. And I told him, when you see this, it's going to be shocking, but it'll be enlightening as well. I basically feel like my entire life became one big mic drop, which is the irony because as a speaker on X Spaces, I'm known for stopping with a mic drop. There is no doubt in my mind this is what the difficulty is now. And so it is a genetic condition. My body doesn't handle collagen correctly. One of the biggest realizations that I hit with my health conditions has been being able to say to myself, it's not my fault. This was a very emotional realization. It is not my fault. It never was. Because when you struggle with your health over years, over decades, there is always that sense, whether it's because of the way other people look at you or being dismissed by the medical profession because they don't have an answer and they just don't know and they don't want to admit that they don't know. You start feeling like, I'm doing this wrong. I did something to cause this. It was not my fault. It never was. A typical healthy person never has to say that to themselves. But I absolutely had to get to that point. So now that I understand it, what do? I did a little more study. I went through all of my vitamin supplements and I optimized time of day, meal, what's required, which ones need to be separated from each other, what gives me even the slightest advantage on connective tissue health. I also went to work on things like boosting GLP-1 and insulin sensitivity because Syndrome X does run in my family. My dad is pre-diabetic, my brother is type 2, and there were some concerns with my labs not looking quite right, and I don't want to get into the danger zone, so we're putting a stop to it right now. I have a really good reputation as far as these kind of things with my labs. When something changes and it's not going the right direction, I lock into fight mode and I fix it. I've never been able to not fix any of it at any point yet. About the only thing that I seem to be stuck with is that low positive ANA result. That's expected if you're an autoimmune patient, but I do have a goal someday of seeing it negative again. It only happened once, but I'm going to fight for it. All of that said, the goal is this. The exact same thing I've seen my buddy Kyle do. My connective tissues are not able to do the job that they should do sufficiently. So what's your next best option? Well, build the muscular structure. Build the muscles to where they can do the job that they weren't really designed to do, but they got to be back up now. When I was watching Kyle recover from the stroke, because I couldn't believe what I was seeing, I said, "You've got something that I want. I want to be able to recover the way you're doing this." Because I always feel like I flounder, fall on my face, flounder again, fall on my face, cry a lot, have no idea what to do. I want to be able to recover like that. Well, it's the fitness level. We've got all the basics. Yes, I need to reduce my body fat percentage, working on that. You know, um, I do work out. I need to bring my workout back into alignment with the level that it needs to be at for that to happen. I've been dealing with a nasty case of plantar fasciitis. Got that resolved by going through some ugly, painful cortisone injections in my heels. Would not recommend, except for the results. I recommend that part. So we interrupted the pain cycle, got some physical therapy done. We're moving forward. So the next thing is build the muscular physique that I have always wanted. And I'm in my 50s. The goal is to be in the best fitness shape of my life by my 60th birthday. I got 2 years. But I will do it. And here's the why. As an autoimmune patient, as a neurological patient, as someone with a history of a heart condition, could I possibly think that this is going to get easier as I get older? It won't. And here's the news flash: nothing gets easier. You must become stronger. So that's my task. Become the stronger person. Because these challenges will become more difficult, and I've got to keep pace with it. It's entirely possible without that light bulb moment of, oh, this is what's going on with my connective tissues, that I would not have the correct direction in order to build the strength that I need, direct my physical therapy as well. So again, thank you so much to those awareness warriors who posted all of that content. I owe you a huge debt of gratitude. That said, it's something that I plan on paying it forward because I have been doing autoimmune awareness and heart disease awareness for a number of years. Next year, I will be joining you since I already do awareness campaigns in the month of May. I will be adding hypermobility to that list because more people need to know this is not uncommon and it needs to be handled correctly. It needs to be treated correctly. Just to wrap it up, because I don't want the first episode to be terribly long, I want to explain everything around my brand. I rebranded to First Light Warrior a few years ago, because I had a coach and mentor who pushed me very hard getting ready for hiking Half Dome in 2019. And I started getting up early. I'm a dyed-in-the-wool lifelong night owl, and I just couldn't do that anymore if I was going to train correctly. And so eventually I was naturally getting up at first light, which is about an hour before sunrise. The goal was to get out the door by the time the sun was coming up, before preferably. And so, having been the lupus warrior for a number of years and wanting to identify with something a little more positive, I became the warrior of first light rather than the warrior of a disease. I may battle lupus, but I don't want it to be my entire identity. I would rather my identity be being that warrior, the one who fights, the one who never quits. The tagline of Savage, Not Average was an evolution as well. C.T. Fletcher has some merchandise that includes some bracelets that say F excuses and F average. And I thought, yeah, average, normal, basic, that's not me. I can't be that, because if I'm that, then I'm not going to have the will to fight. And I thought, how can I use this? What am I then? And I thought, I'm attacking this in a very savage way. Ooh, it clicked. Savage, not average. Now, the funny thing is, a whole bunch of other people, you can call this Akashic, I suppose, but a whole bunch of other people actually started using the same tagline, the same time frame. It's like everyone stumbled across the idea at the same time, but I uniquely write it with the semicolon because the semicolon is an awareness symbol for people who have been through a near-death fight, who have survived suicidal ideation. I have a self-destructive past myself, and so that semicolon in writing basically means we're not done. And so it has become the "my story is not finished" symbol. My story is not finished. And so it's written out as Savage with a semicolon, not average. I hope that gives you a pretty clear picture of who I am now, and I owe the never quit to my buddy Kyle primarily. He will tell you that I did the work, all he did was say some words, but he said some of the most important words to me possible. This has been an evolution into a person that I was not a few years ago. This is a version of me that I only hoped for. This is the strong person that people always told me that I was, and I could not feel about myself. This is not just the phoenix rising from the ashes, but I am out of the ashes at this point. And so I'm a new person. And as I told him, I think 2 years ago, when he asked me, how do you feel? Actually, 3 years ago, I lose track. I said, I feel like me. I feel more like me than I ever have. And that's the best answer. Recovering from a level of disability and being on self-destruct and climbing out of the inability that some of these illnesses can pile on top of you is a process. It's like shedding layers. So in a way, it is like the phoenix burning all the way to the ground repetitively. If you ever see any of my photos or videos and you notice there's a phoenix tattooed on my right shoulder, that's why. It wasn't some frivolous design that was drawn specifically for me, and it's very personal to my recovery. I am so incredibly not done developing my strength. As I work on my fitness level and build the muscle that I need to be more functional, I'm continuing to work on my mindset. That's your foundation. As I've said for so many years, if you don't work on what's between your ears first, you're not going to get anywhere. So I hope that I can be a living example of a no excuses lifestyle for you. I already have a number of topics in mind, so there will be a few episodes going up as soon as I get them recorded. I deeply appreciate my friends who have been so supportive. and also the new people who are following me on social media and on Substack. Without you, there's no one to give a message to. You are the reason that I'm here. Please remember that if you're hearing this, there's probably a reason for it. Be prepared in your own life. And when you hit some kind of challenge, embrace it as an opportunity. And remember, when you get to the other side of it, you pay it forward. Someone else needs to hear your story. And with that said, stay savage, not average.